Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Clockedin with me, your host, Jordan Edwards. I'm thrilled to have you tune in as we dive into the dynamic world of productivity, success, and stories of incredible individuals who've mastered the art of getting things done. Whether you're commuting, hitting the gym, or just relaxing at home, this podcast is the go-to source for inspiration and actionable tips to level up your productivity game. I'm on a mission to unravel the secrets of those who seem to effortlessly manage their time and achieve their goals. So if you're ready to clock in and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. We've got a lineup of amazing guests, industry experts, and thought leaders who will share their insights and strategies to help us crush your to-do list and make the most out of every moment. Get ready to get inspired, motivated, and equipped with the tools you need to supercharge your productivity. This is Clocked In with Jordan Edwards. Let's dive in. Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a special guest today. We have the CEO of Catalyst Consulting, a digital marketing agency, Chris Roche. Chris, how are we doing today?
Good, man. Good. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here on the Clockedin podcast. So I know you have an interesting story. So where does your story start? I know it was over the pond.
Yeah.
You came over to the US?
Originally from England. Most people here think it's Australia. I have no idea why. I think it's just a misconception with the accent. But yeah, originally from England, born and raised in Manchester. And I've lived in the States now for going on 9 years. And now I'm married and living in Wisconsin.
Wow. Isn't that everyone's dream?
Yeah.
So I understand that you came to the US for college, right?
Originally, yeah. So I originally came over to play college soccer. So I was growing up in Manchester and at a point where I wasn't good enough to go professional in England to play soccer. And I was at a point where I didn't want to really finish playing and I wanted to continue on playing at a high enough level. And in England, there isn't really that option to continue playing unless you are going to go professional. And the university system there just isn't the same for the athletic side of it. So one of my friends who was actually older than me, he was currently playing in Mississippi at the time, connected with him, asked how it kind of the process of how he ended up coming over and playing America. I got connected with a recruit in England and then got connected with a college coach here in the States in Wisconsin, who was originally from Northern Ireland. We chatted for a little bit, booked a flight and kind of said, right, let's give it a go for a semester. And that was 9 years ago.
Wow, that's incredible. And I love the fact that you were able to look forward a little bit by talking to people who have been there before.
Yeah,
that's always...
At the time, there was another English guy on the team, and I remember Skyping with him, and I was like, hey, what's it like? He's like, honestly, just come give it a semester, see if you enjoy it and see if it's something that you want to continue on with. And worst case scenario, go back to England a year later and go to university there. And I was like, that's a pretty good way of looking at it.
Yeah, and we have to realize that everything's temporary. There's no permanence in what we do. And regardless of if it's like a business, regardless if it's a relationship, a family, whatever it is. Well, family's kind of permanent, but most stuff is pretty temporary in the regard that we can always change and be who we want to be. So, Chris, you end up making that leap. And how was that for you? Like that change?
Yeah, it was a big adjustment. I remember the first day I arrived, I flew into Chicago, got picked up by an older guy on the team, didn't have my dorms yet, didn't know where I was going to be living, went over to one of the teammates' house. I remember they had this like mannequin in the corner with like a football helmet on it. And I'm sat there and I'm thinking, what on earth am I doing here? This is the worst decision ever. Go home, stop being an idiot, go back and go to University of England like all of my friends. And, that was, I think, the moment that I was like, hey, let's give it a week, see what happens. And it was give it a month, give it a semester. And then I got to, meet a lot of people here. I, played all 4 years, graduated, ended up starting a business out of college. And even now, really haven't looked back since and, continue and at a point where I want to keep living here. I found a lot of opportunity in America. I found a home in America. And, really for me now, it's not something I'm really considering going back.
I love that. And it's incredible because you seem, and I kind of did a similar thing, where most people end up staying within 50 miles of their home. It's just like a proven thing. Like even if they go to college, they always come back. Mm-hmm. But that ability to leave early
when you're younger, what do you think that helped you in your growth? Like, because I had the same experience. I was in Jersey, grow up, everyone goes New York City, or everyone will go to PA, or
Mm-hmm.
wherever they go, they end up literally 20 minutes from our hometown in New York City. And that's fine. But for me, I was like, I'm going to go to Tampa. And I went to Tampa and I've stayed in
Yeah.
Tampa since. And it's just going somewhere where you don't know anyone. Oh my God. Like it just opens your eyes and there's so many more options and so many more perspectives, which
Well,
is one of the biggest things for me.
it opens your eyes, but it also forces you to, I think, grow up very quickly. It forces you to put yourself out there to make friends and meet people. I remember being a freshman and not being jealous, but thinking, right, all these guys that I knew, they all had high school friends. They had friends that they played on college soccer teams. They had these existing networks. And as someone now that, preaches so much about the ability and the power of networking and, making relationships, it is interesting for me looking back now, knowing that I literally didn't know a single person in this country when I first came here 9 years ago, and having built that up now to the point where, I do know a lot of businesses. I work with a lot of great companies, a lot of great clients that I'm, currently running the ads for. And having built that up, I think that's something that you learn when you step outside of your comfort zone. And I don't think I think if I hadn't made that switch, I would have struggled later on to be as confident. And for me, it almost changed the makeup of who I am.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And let's just kind of go into post college. When you were leaving college, was your idea to, because most of the normal people are like, hey, let's go get a job. Let's go down this path. And
I
I know you did
definitely
something a
had
little different.
Yeah, I definitely had the thought of, hey, go and get a job. Part of it for me was also I had a visa to worry about. I was going on to a work visa. For me, do I need to get a job in order to stay here to be able to work on my visa? What kind of company is going to sponsor me for my work visa? I remember going to career fairs at university and like other marketing agencies. I was like, hey, I'd love to come work for you. I'd run this. I already had all these little side hustles I was doing with marketing. And they're like, yeah, but that's great, but we're not going to sponsor you. So good luck. I remember thinking that's such a dumb way of looking at it. I was like, I'm a great candidate for this. Like, why not, take a chance on me? And a lot of companies weren't willing to do that. And I realized that in my junior year. And at that point, I was like, right, I need to make a change here, or I need to figure out what I'm going to do, because nobody's going to hire me right now. Nobody wants to take that risk on me. So I'm going to have to go back to England. At that point, I started my business. The first company I started was a SaaS company that helped athletes get recruited for college soccer. And it was originally started to help international students coming over to America. The system is very simple when it comes down to it, but there's a lot of ambiguity that's talked about with, recruiting internationally. There's a lot of, in my opinion, just bullshit that goes on with it, where people try and make money from, the lack of knowledge. And I was trying to provide a transparency with that. As I started to grow that company, I realized that actually there was a much greater need, even domestically, in the fact that kids were going to play college athletics 50 miles, 100 miles down the road, but they were paying recruiters thousands of dollars to get connected with that college coach, because again, there was this lack of transparency and this pay to play model. So my whole goal was to democratize the way that athletic recruiting was being done. And that's when I started Recruit Shoot. And I ran that for a number of years. We worked with clients all over the country. I predominantly focused on soccer domestically, and I did have some international partners as well. And then exited that company, or the majority share in that company, a couple of years ago, before I moved on to kind of that next project.
Yeah. And I actually played at the University of Tampa lacrosse my freshman year. And I can definitely attest to that experience of going through the process. Is, oh, colleges will like this, colleges will like this. And you go, no one knows anything. So to provide that helping arm of, hey, we're not going to take, we're not doing this, we're going to help you here, is massive. So when you were doing that, it was just the transition of graduation time came, and it was just the next step is to just keep working on it because it was getting so much momentum.
Yeah, I wanted to go all in. So I was at a point where I didn't need a lot to live. I lived in a small town, and I could go all in on it. And I was working every cash in hand job I could find to, to support myself and pay rent at the end of the day. And I hustled for 2 years straight and didn't pay myself from the company, and continue to grow the company as much as I can and reinvest and travel around and make sales. And then we raised some capital, then we raised some more capital. And, that for me was a real breakthrough, but it was just a lot of hard work and a lot of sleepless nights. And that's when, when I talk with clients now who have raised money or going through that entrepreneurial grind, I know it. I've lived it. I've done that and been there. And it is a grind. And for me, that was almost that rite of passage now to be able to, work with so many great entrepreneurs, because I know what they've been through when I'm now consulting with them on how to scale even further past where I got to.
Yeah, it's so true, because that initial part is what breaks or makes a lot of people. And I love the fact that you are like, I did part-time work. I had to find money that I need to pay for things. Like, there's so many people that are, mom and dad just will pay their bills. And it's like, that's not how the world works. Like, you got to be able to support yourself and lower your means or raise that or figure out some way that it's all going to work out. But it's not easy. And that's why it's so awesome, the experience you had with that.
Yeah, it was, again, it was a learning curve with that, because I was getting up and I was going to, I had a co-working space, which was just me by myself with nobody else there. I eventually had some free interns that I brought on, but I was at a point where I was getting up at 7 a.m. every morning, going to the co-working space in a full suit as well. Because for me at the time, like, that was the mentality I had, was that I had to dress well to feel like I was doing something important. And I think that was probably a little bit of the kind of Englishness in me, was just like, hey, like, you've got to, stiff up a lip and you've got to look the part. So I was going to this co-working space in the middle of this tiny town in Wisconsin, 7 a.m., 7:30, I would get there. I would work from then pretty much straight until about 3:45. And then from there, I would leave and go straight to the bar, which I worked at. I would bartend from 4 until 10. And then I would go straight to the bar, which I would bounce until midnight, 1 a.m, and then start over again. And I did that pretty much for 2 years straight. I lived with 5 other roommates, kept rent down, kept everything as inexpensive as possible, to be able to afford to keep reinvesting. And a lot of that hard work that was then being seen by people within the community allowed me to raise capital from angel investors who lived in the town, this tiny town. I was able to raise capital in because of that they were seeing the work that I was doing day in, day out.
Oh, wow. And that's the coolest part, is that you were not letting up and people got to see that opportunity. So what was your approach to actually raising money? Not saying that this whole topic is going to be around raising money, but I know there's always people looking and they're always interested in how that dynamic works. So for you, it sounded, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, raising money first and foremost it's a game, and I know clients now that have raised, or some of my clients have raised millions of dollars, and I never got to the point where I raised seven figures. I was always raising 6 figures, but it's a game. I mean, it's finding investors, it's finding people that are either gonna back the jockey, not the horse. And that's where, again, back the entrepreneur is the expression that a lot of early stage angel investors will use. So for me, it was showing that credibility of, I'm not going to let up, and I'm generating revenue and I'm profitable from day one, because of the fact that I'm not taking any money for myself. I'm being very lean with everything. I'm scrapping everything I can do to make this company work. So imagine what I could do now with 6 figures to be able to go out and scale a team and go and acquire customers and travel around and put on and be at these conventions and run these advertisements. That was kind of my mentality with that. But it ultimately came down to personal relations. And once you get your first investor, once you get a lead investor, it's a lot easier to raise capital from there, because you have that little bit more validation with that. And I was also going to pitch competition after pitch competition in the Midwest, and just hustling for $5,000, pitch competition, $10,000 pitch competitions. And then I got to a point where I was like, hey, I'm going to go out West. I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to try and raise capital there as well, which ultimately for me wasn't as successful. I had more success in the Midwest, which eventually, led us back to come in, moving back here a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Wow. It's an incredible story. So you ended up going out to LA. How long were you there for?
I lived in LA for about 9 months, and then San Diego for about a year, and then back to Wisconsin.
Just on the quest of trying to raise money?
Originally,
trying to do extra?
No, originally it was to raise money, and then when I exited Recruit Shoot, the company that I worked with, a couple of their co-founders were down in San Diego, so I ended up moving closer to them, basically. And then, I was married at the time. I just got married, and my wife's family's all from Wisconsin, and just that appeal of being closer to family and having that stronger network was something that we both really wanted. And we moved back here about 2 years ago now. And then we bought a house here about 7 or 8 months ago.
Oh, congratulations. I know it's the real estate's a nightmare, but it's
it's nuts right now. Yeah, we bought it at the worst time. Hopefully we make money at some point on it.
No, but it's just amazing when you're like, okay, I got this. I know what my payment is. It's kind of nice. It's a good feeling.
We locked in a very good 30-year rate was the saving grace of when we bought the home.
Exactly. Yeah. So what were you doing? What was the thing with the co-founders? What was that? That was with you were.
Yeah, that was a software development agency. It was one that was already running before I joined. I joined as an equity partner probably 3-4 years ago now. And yeah, we scaled it from a couple 100,000 to, doing multiple 7 figures a year. It was a really steep learning curve for me. I was not a developer. I'm still not a developer. So that was a steep learning curve in just being able to sell something that, I truly didn't understand for a while. I now obviously, do, but it took me a couple of months to get to the point where I felt comfortable being able to sell that. I worked with a great team and, I handled all the sales and marketing for them, scaled them very, very aggressively. And then at the end of last year, just got to a point where I was like, I want to do this at scale with multiple companies, not just one. And unfortunately, being a service-based company, you don't have the ability to scale quite at the rate that I wanted to. And that's where, I stepped away, and now I work with a handful of clients that are predominantly B2B SaaS companies who are scaling very, very quickly, and being able to really go after companies and acquire customers to be able to hit those revenue goals.
Yeah, that's incredible. And Catalyst, so you do all the marketing. It's digital marketing agency, correct?
It is, yeah. It's a revenue and pipeline growth digital marketing agency.
Okay, awesome. And how did you? I know you made the jump because you wanted to do your basically have your project again and help a lot of different companies at the same time. But what allows you to target customers? Like, what is your approach to get? Because I know when we talked earlier, you mentioned, hey, we're not going for, because you don't niche out, right? You try to keep it very.
Yeah, we've not been super specific with the niches that we work with so far. The majority are SaaS companies, B2B SaaS companies, but in terms of the who they're targeting, we've not been super specific, just because of the fact that you tend to learn a lot by the marketing that's working. And when you can test it across different industries simultaneously, you can take and apply that to other clients. So I have clients in real estate, in fintech, in medtech, in food tech. I mean, it's, kind of everything at the moment. So I have it really across the board. And what I'm finding is that when I find something that works very well with one client, being able to test that and apply that to other clients allows me to, really impact their results very, very quickly as well. So that ability to scale them much more aggressively becomes a lot easier when you're working with multiple clients, and you can make assumptions across the board, and rather than just working predominantly with one sector where it may not apply to if you suddenly then wanted to expand into that. But again, I've not niched down very deliberately, just in the fact that I don't know who my ideal client is right now. A lot of it has been inbound. A lot of it has been word of mouth and referral. And it tends to have really focused around B2B SaaS companies that have just raised, anywhere from, high 6 figures to low 7 figures is really the majority of the mix of my clients at the moment. And we're at a point where we're helping them figure out how to scale, how to increase ad spend from 10, 15,000 a month to maybe 50, $100,000 a month, because they're not at a point where they've been able to do that effectively. And that is a really fine sweet spot where I'm having a lot of success in the moment, and where I will continue to kind of drill down into that sector.
Incredible. And what do you focus on in regard to, when you say the ad spend? Are we talking about like YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn?
Across the board. Yeah. We work on all platforms across the board with clients. It's very much in full service digital agency. I have a couple of team members that work, predominantly on very specific platforms with clients. I personally can work in all platforms. I tend to be stronger on Google Ads, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Those are more my background. But I have other team members now as we've started to scale this that have, much more expertise in TikTok, have expertise in, YouTube ads, whatever that is, to be able to really put together a full service offering that makes the most sense for each client. But a lot of the time, the early 3-6 months is testing out these platforms to make sure that our recommendations are going to be the most effective. And if we are seeing that we can be more effective on other platforms, being able to constantly adjust that budget to increase efficiency.
Interesting. Because I know it's always, the ad is a very long game. Not like super long, but it's long enough where you can actually get a trend line where you can see what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing with digital advertising. And when you're looking at testing this out, is looking at digital ads as a long-term investment, especially when you're in the B2B space where sales cycles can be, anywhere from several weeks to 3 to 6 months on some of my, clients that sell much larger, high ticket, services or products.
Yeah.
So you have to be in a position where you look at investing in this as a 6 to 12 to really 18-month timeline. And when you start to invest over that period of time, you can measure those results much more effectively and you can make those informed decisions. If you're looking to test ads and do 4 or 5 weeks of testing and then make a decision, you're not going to be able to do this effectively, and you're just setting yourself up for failure, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that. So yeah, go.
I'm just going to quickly just change that camera quick.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah. So, I mean, it's super interesting because there's just a lot of challenges we face in regard to how we're going to allocate our time, what's the most effective use of our time, and how we should spend this time. So for you, Chris, what did you find? Because obviously you've had a very different experience just going from one startup to a team to another startup of yours. What is your view on experience versus really just kind of taking action and going after it yourself and learning through that avenue? Because you had a much different, because some people are like, hey, I only want a 20-year guy. And it's like, a 20-year guy? How's anyone going to do that? That means you're only getting older. But what's your view on experience or versus taking action and learning on the job?
I think a lot of it comes down to entrepreneur versus employee. I think when you're looking at, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to take action and you're going to constantly find a way to deliver the results or learn how to do that. My background has always been as an entrepreneur, so I've always been very self-motivated. I've always been in a position where I will go and figure out how to do something, or I'm going to hire someone that knows how to do that and leverage that as well. I think as I've got older as an entrepreneur, I've become more aware of my own downfalls. So now the first thing I'm going to hire is what I'm not great at, and that allows me to be great at what I am great at. So for me, that was a very important lesson in terms of getting experience. When you're young, when you're in your low 20s, when you've just graduated college, take a risk. Going to get that job out of college that pays $50,000, $60,000 a year, whatever that is, it sounds great. It might be appealing. But what you can learn by starting a business and failing is always going to be, incrementally, more valuable for you than just going after and going and getting that job. And that's one of the best life decisions that I think I made, is constantly starting businesses. And the other thing is, every business you start, it gets easier. And that's something that I don't think enough entrepreneurs understand, is that attrition of being able to start a business, and where you have perhaps fallen down previously, you just hurdle those obstacles now to the point where where I'm on my third business, scaling to, a point where, really we're making multiple, 5 figures a month. It's been a lot easier than it was with my previous company, and a hell of a lot easier it was in my first company. And that's something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they fall down once, don't always have that foresight to stand up and try again.
Yeah, you brought up a major point, and this is something I've been pondering a lot. It's that humans are creatures of habits, and these habits that we have, they can be good or bad. But as we consistently do the same thing over and over and over and over again and develop these habits, and basically you're just talking about the habit of resiliency and the habit of kind of knowing the path and continuing into the unknown, because each time you go into the unknown, it's scary at first, but then you can walk backwards and go, I know exactly how to get out of there. Mm-hmm. And it's developing these habits each and every day And that includes weekends. That includes Friday afternoon, like we're doing right now. It includes the habits of consistently developing yourself so that you're able to become the person you want to be, and that person that's able to provide value and retrieve value. So
Absolutely.
what do you think about all that?
No, I yeah, I agree 100% with it. It's attrition. It's understanding, the fact that every time it is going to get easier with that. It's understanding the way that, you can start to create value with that. And it's all attrition, and you will constantly, to, like you say, get better as you do things over and over again. As a creature of habit, as humans, as you say, I think there is a misconception of that there is always this greater risk of starting a business versus being an employee. I joke with my wife now, we're talking about it, I would have to have several clients all fire me on the same day to be out of work, which, touch wood, doesn't happen. But if you're working for a company, my argument is that's actually riskier than starting something like a consulting agency, because you only need one company to be pissed off at you to get rid of you. Whereas when you have this ability, to work with multiple clients, you do get to de-risk that. And that's where I think starting a consulting agency is actually a lot less riskier than people perhaps perceive, when they're first looking at it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, because I've thought about that a little bit. Because if you're the employee, you have one job, and like that means one person could get upset at you and that job can be over. If you're, as you say, you have 6 jobs, 8 jobs, 10 jobs, whatever it is, it gives you a lot more leg room. So what caused you to go into this consulting dynamic? Because I mean, at this point right now, it's a lot more protected than a regular job would be.
It is, but I'm also 7 months into it. And when I left Iron Forge, I had just closed, or I had just had an offer accepted on a house. So we just about to go through there. So the risk was quite large then when I said, hey, I'm gonna go out on my own. And now seems like the perfect time because I'm closing in 30 days. So, let's really piss off the people at the bank. So I was there, I had no retaining clients, no source of income, and I had a closing in 30 days. But I was at a point where I was like, if I don't do this now, I'm not going to do it. And the timing really worked out well for me in terms of where I was at with clients, with the previous company, and just everything just kind of, it gave me an opportunity to do that. So I was at a point where I was like, hey, I'm going to break off and I'm going to go for the next 30 days and see how many clients I can get. And I got my first 3 clients in, I think, 14 days, was able to show the contracts to the bank, which basically acts as my income, which they then, I was able to close my home, which was kind of one of my big concerns, which probably foresight would have, allowed me to maybe leave a month after, but whatever. And, I was able to go and acquire those customers and leverage the networks, leverage the referrals. And then since then, I haven't spent $1 on my own advertising. I don't have a sales team. Everything is 100% inbound. And the majority of it comes from platforms like LinkedIn, from TikTok, from being on podcasts like this, from clients that, see what I'm about, align with the way that I personally view businesses, and the way to scale those effectively, leveraging paid ads. And that's where, I can have those conversations and find clients very, very effectively because of that.
Yeah. And a question I had was, when you're going to that pivot, so a lot of people have identities. Like you see it a lot with athletes in sports where it's, I'm a football player. And then you go and see Tom Brady starting a clothing line. That doesn't make sense. He's a football player. Mm-hmm. But I say that because you've been able to seamlessly jump from different identity to keep changing it. And how do you think about that?
I was reflecting on this earlier this week. The way that I'm able to, how I have been able to jump from company to company in terms of starting my own companies very, very effectively and maintain success is because of the relationships and the networks that I build at each stage, and my ability to perform has just got larger, in my opinion. So to be able to, help businesses scale, or be able to recruit talent, or be able to, find customers has always increased myself as I've gone through these stages. But I've always maintained the relationships with people from right from the beginning. So I have soccer clubs who I originally sold recruit shoot packages to, who now call me and want to know about Facebook advertising. And I have clients from previous work. I just got off a call 40 minutes ago with a previous client who now wants me to help them with the digital advertisements. And I've seen that time and time again, even if it's not a case of where I can work with them or at a point where clients reach out, previous clients reach out to, work on that next venture. They've always been very supportive. And that support that I've managed to curate over the past 7 or 8 years from working in these different platforms or working with these different endeavors is something that I think is quite unique. It's not something that I expected to happen, but I've got my first couple of clients, even from Recruit Shoot, I'll talk to every couple of weeks. They'll message, they'll reach out, they'll like things on LinkedIn, and there still is that willingness from them to almost support me to do well with that. And that's something where I've not quite got a name for it. I've not got really like much of a science behind it, but I think there's a lot of value in creating those relationships and maintaining them over time, because you never know who they're going to introduce you to. You never know how you're going to be able to carry that forward. And just that well-being allows you to have the support, knowing you have a network that you could fall back on for whatever reason. If you did want to go and get a job someday, or something didn't work out and you wanted to fall back and just go and find something that was, quote unquote, more stable.
Yeah, I completely agree. And how do you manage to keep those relationships? How do you think that's one of the best ways to do that?
I think for me, a very low touch way is personal branding, because of the fact that when I'm posting on LinkedIn, I'm posting things about my personal life as well as just marketing tips, or being on a podcast like this and talking about, buying a house and being married and the story of coming from England. That's something that when that's distributed and I, publish that on my own social channels, those that have known me previously, or those that have, I've maybe not talked to in 6 months, they know that I've just bought a house in Wisconsin. So they feel more up to date. And I found that clients or previous clients that I've not talked to in months or years, I'll get on a call like this or catch up with, and they know everything that's gone on because they've seen it online. So they feel that they've invested, and it's getting that investment into you personally and not just the business that you run, is where I think personal branding really has that ability to help you do this to, at scale.
It's the journey.
Yeah.
It's the journey. They're seeing the journey. And the best part is you don't have to talk to each and every one of them. It could just be a like or a comment,
and you don't have the time to. Yeah, nobody has the time to do that. That's what I'm
saying. Yeah. For you to call up 300 people and go, "Hey, man, bought a house, got married, live in Wisconsin," they'll all be like, "What? Like, Chris, you got to explain it to me." So it is genius, because that is how people. Because I've been looking into the whole personal brand and acting a little bit more on it. And it's really interesting, because that is how the celebrity nature comes to be, where these people, and that's why random people are celebrities now, because you just see them in your feed and you're like, wow, what are you doing? Because there's a lot of, like, for example, Kim Kardashian. Does she know who I am? I don't think so. Do I know about her? Yes.
Yeah.
Does a lot of the world know about her? Yes. She doesn't know any of us, but we all know her because she uses these social channels, and then they raise each other through who she's in relationships with, who her family is, and how that all works. But it's really, really powerful, because we can all do it for ourselves. And people feel like they know who you are as you're posting. So I completely agree with you, Chris.
And it's just documenting the journey. That's, for me, is the biggest thing I realized. Just documenting the journey, record everything you do and just post it, and people care. Like that's the crazy thing. Like, people care. They want to invest into you. They want to know what's going on with you. Most people want to support you in some way, and know that you're doing well with that. And that that's why I publish a lot online. I do video snippets. I do TikToks. I do LinkedIn, Instagram Reels, and it's all just snippets of, predominantly conversations like this that I'll just chop up and send out. And I have a video editor that handles all that for me, and just have that all go out. And that allows people to know what's going on with me. And then when they need something that I am selling, so right now with digital advertising, if they're at a point where they raise capital, if it's a startup that I knew from when I was going around the, pitch investor, circuit 5 years ago, if they are now, getting further along and have now raised capital, now they need to be able to hire somebody to leverage the digital advertisements for them. I'm top of mind, and they know that they can trust me. They know the quality of the work that I do, and we already have an existing relationships where they feel that they can, very easily, reach out and have that conversation.
Yeah. Super powerful. Not enough people use it because it's free. it's completely free to post.
It is, yeah. It's free to post, and the beauty is because not a lot of people do it. There's not that much competition right now. A lot of people are scared to post, and I think with anything digital social platforms, you're either the consumer or you are producing on there. And for me, I didn't want to be the consumer. I wanted to be someone that was taking advantage of that by the fact that less than, I think, 30% of CEOs post on LinkedIn every 30 days. I post daily videos all the time so that it's constantly staying front of mind for people.
Yeah, the consumer producer, I've heard that before, and it is one of the most powerful things because we can find ourselves scrolling on it nonstop. Like I put up a LinkedIn post yesterday and I wasn't expecting anything from it. And it got like 14 different likes. Some random guy from someone else's network liked it, commented, who could be like my avatar. I'm like, this is crazy. Mm-hmm. This is crazy. And we're all just talking about the topic that I placed out there for the world to see. You know what I mean? And none of it's intentional. It's just a very organic way of meeting people. Mm-hmm. And LinkedIn's a really good spot. So where do you think is the best spot to do personal branding at the moment?
I think LinkedIn and TikTok are the two biggest for me. TikTok content just performs better on LinkedIn than the majority of LinkedIn content. So if I'm doing a video like this, I'll chop it up, add the subtitles, I'll post it on TikTok, and then I'll take that TikTok stamped video, put that onto LinkedIn, performs way better than without the stamp. So people just click it because they see TikTok. TikTok is very hot in B2B marketing specifically right now. Like everybody's trying to get on there and do something with it. So I'm just leveraging that to the fullest and being able to produce as much content back onto LinkedIn from TikTok.
Wow. And you said the stamp is a good thing.
Oh yeah, people love the stamp. You see, yeah, you post two videos, one with the stamp, one without. The one with the stamp will get more engagement because people see it and it's like, oh, this is going to be cool because it's got TikTok on it. It's
wow,
it's bizarre. So that's why I'll post a TikTok first, straight back to LinkedIn. Same content, straight onto LinkedIn. That content will do better.
Wow, I had and there's many people who say like, hey, remove the TikTok logo, like don't have the TikTok logo, and I'm like, I don't really care, but I didn't know
how much content on LinkedIn has a TikTok logo right now? Like 1% maybe, less than that. So people see it,
and this is why you're in the game.
It's instantly, yeah. It's that that curiosity of what do they do? Like, why are they posting a TikTok on here? This is going to be ridiculous, and it's not. I don't get involved in a lot of even the trends with TikTok. I just post the same content. I just put the stamp on it, and people want to watch that.
100%. Yeah, no, it's a very interesting place. It's cool. So the last thing I want to touch on, Chris, what are some ways that people can grow their personal brand? You think obviously posting, but do you post on a schedule? Do I post one time in a week, one time a month? Like how do I go about this? Because it can be intimidating. There's so many platforms.
It's first of all, the platforms, I would choose one, maybe two. I cross post. So LinkedIn and TikTok for me are the two biggest ones that I'll post on. I will do some Instagram reels, but I'm not as consistent. So being able to take it off in bite-sized chunks, I think is the best way to look at it. So say, right, I'm going to do one platform really well. So if I'm going to do LinkedIn really well, I'm going to post on LinkedIn. What's the schedule that you can commit to posting the frequency for 6 to 12 months? Because that's what you need to do. It's not a one and done month. So if I say, right, I can post on LinkedIn, I think I could feasibly do that 3 times a week. So I'm going to do that 3 times a week on LinkedIn, and I'm going to commit to that. And I'm going to do that come hell or high water. I will post 3 times a week. Don't schedule them out. Do it all, have that freshness of what you're thinking. And if you want to do more, that's great. And just get into documenting what's going on in your day, because people find it interesting, and video content performs a lot better than text content. What you'll actually experience, with a lot of, if you do get into specifically LinkedIn's self-branding, if you do a text post on LinkedIn, it's going to get more impressions. But anytime anybody scrolls through it, it's counting as an impression. Whereas the video, it's going to get less views, but then you watch the average view time and it's 10, 15, 20 seconds of a video. So you've got somebody engaged. So they're actually going to consume that content. And that's why I prefer video over text. The majority of what I'll do is video posting. I'll also get into doing the TikTok style subtitles on there. It's engaging. I'm zooming in, I'm zooming out, I'm chopping. I've got different, B-roll coming over it. I've got a lot more invested into the way of producing that video content now. But when you're first starting out, simple subtitles and just videos and just audio quality is one of the most important factors when you are doing this. Podcast mic, having a microphone over on the camera, decent lighting, just getting these little steps to start off with, and then committing to it for 6 to 12 months without looking at something to happen. Like, don't look at it and say, hey, I need something to happen in 3 months. I've not got a customer in 30 days. Why am I continuing to do this? Because over time, that attrition as an entrepreneur, you will start to attract the right type of people to your content.
Yeah. Powerful stuff. Chris, where can they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. LinkedIn is a great place, just Chris Roche. And I'm sure, on the podcast with this, you can put links and stuff on there as well.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Catalyst Consulting on the website. Feel free to, anyone that's listening to this and has questions on marketing, I do a lot of free consultations just to be able to help companies as well. So feel free to reach out. Happy to sit down. And, I usually do 1 to 2 a week of those for 30-minute slots to be able to not only produce content for myself, but also help businesses as well. So happy to sit down with anybody and run through, if you are looking at investing into paid ads, a way that you may be able to set up a strategy with that, even if it's not necessarily working with a company like Catalyst. And then again, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram could be the 3 big ones.
Let's make it happen. Awesome. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, man, it was a pleasure.
Thank you for reaching the end of the podcast. For that, we'll give you a complimentary coaching session in the link below with Edwards Consulting. Hope to see you there, and have a great day and keep clocking in.